my name is John Smith. Welcome to Kingdom Real. And today I have a very awesome guest that I'm so delighted you're here, Leo Ojeda.
Hey, man.
We haven't known each other very long, just a couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks, yes.
But God connected us together on a deep level really fast.
Yeah.
And it is so good to have you here.
It's good.
Great.
It's great.
So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your family of origin, what it was like, what you learned, what you experienced going through life as a young person.
You ready for this?
Absolutely.
Man, I'm Chilean originally.
Yeah.
I grew up in Chile. I lived there till my 20s, and I'm 35 today.
Wow, you don't look like it.
No? Do I?
You're like about 28.
20. Oh, thank you. I'll praise
you go.
be to the Lord. No, I grew up in Chile. My whole family is in Chile. My mom, my dad passed away. I'm gonna get there for a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
A long time ago. So my brothers and everybody's there.
Wow. How's that feel being so far away and everybody back there?
It's a tough one, but as you know, we make our own decisions.
We do, and then we have to live with them, right?
Yeah, and we gotta live with them definitely. So that was my decision to just when you have a calling in your heart, then you start seeing life in a different way, and then
so
you
the
start
calling
dreaming.
that was in your heart. Tell me a little bit about that, and how was that part of deciding to leave your country?
So, well, I'm gonna give you a little bit of background.
Sure, please.
So I grew up in Chile, how I was saying, and then my mom and dad. My dad was a Catholic.
Okay.
And then my mom, she grew up in a Pentecostal, very strict church.
Wow, that's
Yes.
quite a combination.
Yeah, so she didn't want to do anything with the church when they got married,
Okay.
So they stopped going to church. My dad wanted to go to some Catholic services. So I went with him a few times, and all of that, So it was kind of like a oh, we go here, we go there, and then my mom was like, I'm not sure if I want to keep going to church. So basically, things started happening. Things went south a little bit. My dad had an alcoholism problem.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
So, and that was a shift in our family. He started. He was a retired Marine, so he had a different mindset of how he did things, and then basically he just started drinking and drinking. I mean, he drank his whole life, and then he couldn't stop, and then became a problem. And then he got, they were, how do you say, in my home, he would come back home and just beat my mom sometimes and all of that. It was tough,
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh.
So then it was like, my mom was like, what do we do? She was, she's a hard worker, and she's a teacher.
Okay.
And so we had 3 brothers. I'm the youngest. And basically, she needed God again. She needed Jesus.
Oh.
And she started going back to a church again. But she did not go back to the church she grew up with.
Okay, she went to a different one.
Yeah, she had to kind of
That's all right.
heal a little bit over there. And so I went with her. I started going with her. I was probably 10 years old.
Okay.
9 years old. And that's what I remember, And basically, it was out of desperation, like she needed that. So I was the only one going with her to church.
Okay.
And then my brother and my sister, they did whatever, they had their own world. Everybody was split up, and it was a mess. So that's how I started going to church, and then I'm a musician myself. So I remember I was with her, and I started seeing everybody singing.
Yeah.
And then I saw there was this bass player guy over there, and I liked the bass, the sound of the bass.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to do that. I said, I was a kid, and maybe the guy wasn't the best, but he sounded good to me.
That works.
And so there was God was doing something in me already in there. So, and there was this feeling, this idea. I couldn't understand what that was. The faith that my mom had. And I saw her. I could hear her pray in her room every time, crying out, and because there was so much going on with my dad.
Yeah.
In our home was like I couldn't sleep, man. Not kidding. I had to sleep with a hammer underneath my pillow, because I was a kid. I like afraid. I was like, what if my dad comes and then this and that. So, and I was, I gotta defend my mom. So it was crazy. So then we keep going to church and all of that, and then I liked it, and I started praying too, like my mom. So I was like, all right, God, I wanna play music for you, I wanna learn and all of this and that. So I even pray a bunch of times, can you teach me?
Wow.
I had no idea, can you teach me how to play bass?
Sure.
And anyway, so that's how we connected with church. And then when I was 10 years old, actually, I told my mom right away, all of this happened between 8 and 10.
Okay.
I told my mom, hey, I want to get baptized. My mom is like, you don't even know what that is. So she asked like 3-4 pastors to come and talk to me as a kid,
Yep.
So anyway, so it was quite of a journey, Then I started going to church. I started serving at church when I was 13 years old.
Okay.
And when I was 13, I knew in my heart that this is what I'm gonna do. I love it, and I wanna go after it. So, and it was like a outlet for me. It was like an outlet, like, oh, this brings me hope, brings me peace in my heart. So I'm like, I started writing songs there. Yes,
Wow.
crazy, yeah.
That young, you were writing songs already?
Yeah. While a lot of kids play games today, I was like in my room writing it. Like,
that's awesome.
With a little guitar. It had like 3-4 strings, and then it was so bad, horrible. Maybe out of tune, probably. And but I was, dreaming. I always say, dreaming is free. It's just like I was just like going on my brain.
Yeah.
And anyway, but there was a downtime, another hard moment in our family, like my dad, my mom asked my dad to leave the house when I was around 15, and she's like, we're like, all right, I think it's the right decision, even though it's painful, and I'm gonna grow up without my dad, them together. So, but it got to a point that my mom had to make that decision, and so we were all on board with it. Say, Dad, you need to go find help, and you cannot be with us anymore. Now, that was the bad side of my dad. My dad, when he was not drinking, he was a sweet man, and I learned so much from him about that too. He had a beautiful heart, and basically, this is kind of funny, but I always remember he would organize this in our neighborhood, these things for kids and all of that, and he was a soccer coach.
Oh, okay.
He liked sports and all of that, so kids would come to him every time, and
Wow.
all of a sudden we would hear the door, like somebody knocking on the door. It's like, hey, is there Patricio was his name, like Patrick, is he's here? I'm like, I thought you were looking for me, buddy. He was looking for my dad,
Looking for your dad.
Yeah, so that was a tough one. So there was a gap in between when I was 15 and 20 that I didn't see my dad as much. And but I kept going to church. And I kept poking my brother, like, you need to come to church, man. You sing so good. My brother is a singer, so it's like, you need to come with us. And he was like, nah, and then God, it was like this promise about like me and my mom always used it. Me and my home, we're gonna serve the Lord. And I was like, what does that even mean,
Yeah.
And so I hold on to that. It was like, then I saw my brother started coming, then my sister started coming.
Nice.
Today they're both. He's a psychologist, she's a social worker, but they both do ministry as well. So it's a very long story. I'm trying to.
No, that's fine.
To go fast with that. Yeah. So, and then
So the 3 kids are all in ministry now.
Yes.
Wow, that's
yeah. Well,
great.
half time. They have their full-time jobs as professionals, but then they go to church and never. He sings still and plays, but he does more of a pastoral kind of. As a psychologist, he uses that.
It's a great gift. That's good.
So yeah, then all of that time, like in that gap when my dad was gone, I had to make decisions. I didn't have this guy telling me, "Hey, let's go," like encouraging me. So it was like only my mom. She had to be both. And then so I had a few people around me, pastors and mentors that got close to me. And there is a good friend of mine still. He's like a father to me, like a dad to me. He's a pastor in Chile. His name is Gennaro Bahamondes. He journeyed with me all of this time, and I work with him in the church and everything. So we're still in contact today. He's like a dad. But I had to make decisions. What do I do? Do I go study? Should I forget about this calling that I have? Is this even a calling in my heart? All of those questions. And people telling you, okay, you're not gonna make money, man. You're not in ministry. You're not all of these fear things. It's like, all right. And as a kid, you don't know where to go. You don't know who to listen to.
You need some guidance and counsel.
Yeah, and then, but there was something that I hold on to. It's like convictions. I felt that I needed to. I knew what was that I got when I was 10, when I was 13, when I was in my room alone singing to him, when I was writing the songs, and he was just showing me these things in my heart and my mind. I knew that wasn't a coincidence, like it wasn't like something that it was just like a crazy idea, which it sounded crazy because I wanted to go to Australia after that. I switched. I was like, I'm gonna look for ministry, and I was like, where should I go? Should I go to Argentina? Should I go to this, worship and slash, just ministry in general, like to go prepare? And I was like, because I need to prepare and all of that. So I had that idea, and then I let it go for a little bit. I went to university for like 2 years. I did something completely different. Okay. And this is kind of funny.
Kind of ran away from the calling for a little while.
Yes. So this is kind of funny. I went to study like translations and English to Spanish. So something like that. Yeah. And I learned nothing. I learned the techniques, and everything, but I learned nothing anyway. So I had to drop that all off, and then I made my ex-wife. Now here we go.
Okay.
My ex-wife. I was married before. I met her. She came to Chile as a missionary with missionaries. So,
okay.
Basically, she came and we got married. And by the way, I skipped my dad's death, but he died before that. A few years ago. And so I knew I needed to get out. I needed to go. I needed to do something, and that was in my heart for years. So she came, we got married, and then I shared that with her. I said, "Hey, I'm doing this. This is what I'm after. I want to do ministry," and she didn't want to live in Chile either. So I was like, "All right, let's go somewhere." And then where should we go? And then I said, "Let's go to Australia, Hillsong Church." So I went to prepare there. I went to Hillsong College. I was there for a few years. Okay. And then I was part of the church too. It's a long story. Years went by, and I was in the other side of the world. Never traveled before. Took the longest flight of my life over the Pacific. It was scary. I got there. I couldn't speak a word of English. Wow. And I had to I couldn't study right away. I couldn't get to it right away. So I had to work and find a job, like a random job. And so that was a tough one. But I holding on to God every time. It's just like, I don't know a word of English. And I didn't know. And the accent is super strong there,
Sure.
Super strong. And I don't know if you've ever been in Australia, but
not yet.
And you should.
On my bucket list. So.
Yeah. So that's why I got the weird accent, between Latino and Australia. So, and now it's becoming a Michigander. Anyway.
All depends on where you learn English. Huh?
Yes, exactly. So, it was a good experience, a long journey, and very challenging as well at the same time, because I had to just keep going. There was not a way back. There's not a plan B.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes with God, there's not a plan B. He has a plan A, and you just gotta pursue it, and because it's up to Him more than you. And thus, I had that in my heart. I'm like, I went to a restaurant and started working. I didn't know a word. I got yelled at every time. It's like, and then I learned English, and then I started singing. I found a downtown Sydney like a bar, and I began my guitar and started singing in Spanish, those classic Spanish songs. Yeah. And then I met a lot of people and started connecting, you know, with people, and then doors started opening. And then there was a Spanish-speaking church, Hillsong Church in Spanish.
Okay.
So I got to connect with some friends. I met some friends, and then I got into a team of translations. I helped translate songs from Hillsong Worship and all of these things.
Into Spanish?
Into Spanish, yeah.
Oh, how fun.
So I got to meet great friends, and we're still friends till today. They're in Argentina now.
Okay.
So anyway, so that was quite of a journey, and then we got pregnant, you know, with my wife, and so she is from here. She's from Michigan. Okay. My ex-wife, and so we visited here in 2014. You know, we stayed for a little bit, and obviously she was about to, you know, birth. So like, and my kid was born here, and all of that. Okay. And then we went back to Australia, and then we came back here again. It's kind of crazy. And then there was announced.
You just really like those long flights, right?
I know. I love flying. I miss airports. So basically, everything was going so good. You know, I was living the dream. You know, I love Hillsong Church till today. Great church, and especially the worship and all of that. Got to meet beautiful people, and I was part of that team. You know, I was part of that, and. Which is, there's a lot of people there. I don't know how I got to be part of that, to be really honest. It's just a God thing. So anyway, we decided to come back to the States for a little bit. And after that, we came to the States. We went back to Australia, and then we came back to the States again. And then there was announced that it would be, that Hillsong was opening churches in Argentina and Latin America. Okay. So I'm like, we're going. So drop everything. We went. And it wasn't that, we weren't that long here, so it was just like, we're just gonna keep going. And so I lived in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and then there's when everything went like down in my life. So you know, like, things didn't work with my ex-wife, and I was into ministry. I was doing all of this, and it was like basically. Just like when you feel like you're going so fast, you're going like 100 miles per hour, so you feel like, yo, this is good, you know, and then all of a sudden you find out that your marriage is not working, and then you know, there's some things that she had, and we haven't communicated well, and it was painful for me to know about them. Okay. And to find out about them, and it's just like very tough, you know, and I was like, oh, we have a kid now. We have a kid. She's going back to Michigan. I can't stay here as much as I love what I'm doing right now. Wow. As much as I'm dreaming about what I'm doing right now. And it was so scary. Because I started having anxieties and dreams. I never dream, but when I dream, I get worried. I'm like, wow. And waking up at night, and basically, she came back here, and I say, I need to go back. I want to be close to my daughter. I can't be here, far away from here, from her. So I dropped everything. I dropped everything I was doing, and I came back. I still remember I arrived in Dallas, Texas, and when you are not a citizen or a resident here, it's tough. For her, it wasn't tough at all, because my daughter was born here, and she is a resident. So so for me, it was like, I don't know if they're gonna let me come back, because I just go out, and I was already processing my papers when before that, and I dropped everything for ministry again. You know, it's just like, wow. And now I'm on my way back. I was literally in the bathroom of our airplane 20 minutes before when the pilot announced we're about to arrive. I was praying, crying out.
Yeah.
I said, God, they might say no for me to go in, and there we go. You know, so I was like, all right, okay, I'm just gonna trust you again.
Okay.
And so I walk into the airport. I was sweating, man. I was like, this is, Lord, this is it.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'll never forget, there was a long like a mechanical stairs that I was going down, and it says, Homeland Security, welcome to the United States of America. I saw that. And you know, God speaks to us in different ways.
Yeah.
And we all know when He speaks. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was His voice. He said, "Don't worry about it. This is gonna be your home."
Welcome home.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
That word, welcome home.
Amazing.
Welcome home. Exactly that. Welcome home. Don't worry about it. Man, we got there, and the question that they usually ask you intentionally to see, they don't mess around in immigration. So I got through the line, and it was my turn. My daughter and my ex-wife went by, and the officer looked at me, looked at my Chilean passport. So there was an Australian different parts of the world. He goes like, "Are you planning on applying and staying here?" And I'm like, "I'm not gonna lie to you." They said yes, which is the wrong answer that you should never say if you're planning on it, because they get all weird about it. And I said yes. He looked at me and said, "Okay." He stamped it.
I love it.
And I went by in less than 2 minutes.
Because you told the truth.
Yeah. And because I trust Jesus again.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so, yeah. And then I came back here, and basically I knew no one. I got to the airport. We flew to Grand Rapids, from Dallas, and it was night here, super dark, Michigan, and she literally her family took her with her and my daughter, and then I was there with my suitcase.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You were left behind.
And then my sister-in-law came by, my ex-sister-in-law came by and took me to a different house where I met this precious family. I still call her my American mom till today.
Wow.
And this family that opened their house for me, that met me once when I came traveling. They opened the house. I lived with them in a basement in the house, and for 2.5 years. That basement taught me so much.
What did you learn in the basement?
There's a lot of things, man. I think after being part of a large church and being part of all of that I was doing, we had 5 services on a Sunday, man. There was always nonstop, and it was awesome. I came back to a basement where it was me and my guitar alone.
Wow.
It was nothing, it was just me, and I was like, all right, the first day, it was winter already, it was January 13, I still remember. Snow seemed beautiful for about 2 weeks, and then kind of, I couldn't drive, I didn't have a car, so days started getting longer, and then I'm like, shoot, what do I do now? So I say I learned a lot about that basement. I learned about first my identity, What was it? Where was it?
Yeah.
Is it because it's saying because I was part of a different church, like a good nice great church? What was it that moved my heart? None of that was there. It was just me.
Yeah.
Right? And I started getting so super depressed and had anxiety attacks alone. I'd cry for hours, missing my daughter. And I was like, God, what are you? Like, what are you? and then I started drinking.
Mm.
Yes.
Wow.
I started drinking a lot. And,
You never thought you were going to do what your dad did, and here you are doing it.
yeah, I don't have a problem with alcohol at all. It's just I don't think that's an issue at all.
Okay.
But I think when you are emotionally broken, it's the bad thing to not the best to do. You
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
And so to me, it was like I started drinking, and I found myself in bars and things like that, and just trying to stay around people. And I love bars still. I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
You know, I like the TVs and all of
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
You know, but then there was a
And people
point.
tend to be a little bit more real there, don't they?
Yes, and I love that. You know, and there was a moment that I was like, yeah, I just don't know if I'm gonna make it.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna make it.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep drinking, and then there was a moment I will never forget. There was a moment that I was so drunk in a bar. I still remember where places. I'm not gonna say it though.
Okay.
But I asked God, "Where are you?" I left. You know, that complaint
Mm-hmm.
came out.
Yeah.
It's like, I left my family. I left the country that I grew up. I went literally around the world to follow your calling. And I did all of these things, and now I'm here sitting in a bar drunk. What are you? Like, what happened? You know? And I was just like there. I was like, the bartender was like, look. I was like, I didn't give a thing. I was just crying. I don't give it. And I was like, I felt like this is the weirdest thing, and I'll never forget it. I felt like Jesus was there with me, and he was just crying with me too. Crying. There was no judgment because I was drunk. There was nothing. He was just there. I felt like he was there, crying with me. And that was a good thing for me. It's like, man, after so many years that I've known you, I think for the first time ever, I'm keeping it so real with you. And I'm being honest with you, God. I said about my flaws, my failures, my, you know. So, and I was like, what do we do now? You know. So then God started moving mountains, you know, and there was a shift again in my life.
Okay.
I said, I'm gonna stop drinking, and I'm gonna find a church. I'm gonna find a church, and I started looking for churches around, and then things started changing. My prayer every morning was like, I'm gonna pray like David. I'm gonna let your mercy and love follow me every day, and I'm just gonna hope that you're gonna go mountains. So, and then there was a shift, which is I found a new place, and
Wow. So you've seen the dark side, and God is right there with you.
yeah.
That's
And no
great.
judgment.
No judgment. That's
no
huge.
judgment, yeah.
That's huge.
Right, yeah.
Good. Well, I want to hear more of your story. Would you be willing to do another episode with us and kind of share how it came out on the other side?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, that sounds good.
I would
That's
love to do
great.
that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, my name's John Smith. You've been listening to an amazing story of a dear friend of mine that became dear just a couple weeks ago, and hope you've enjoyed this. Please come back for episode 2 with my friend Leo. God bless.
Okay.